Hi, welcome to Conflict Story, where we bring you the best and most fascinating stories just for you. Let's dive right into one of those stories. It begins like this.
I never thought I'd find myself sharing a story like this, but here I am. It all began roughly 8 months ago when my fiancée Emily and I moved into our first home in a charming neighborhood near Seattle. After years of renting and saving, this was supposed to be our dream home, a beautiful craftsman-style house with a three-car garage. What we didn't realize was that this dream would soon turn into a nightmare thanks to an overzealous homeowner association president named Karen. Emily and I are in our mid-30s. She's a graphic designer, and I'm a mechanical engineer. The house we bought had been owned by an older couple who were downsizing to retire in Arizona. During the purchase process, they casually mentioned the existence of a voluntary neighborhood association, which organized events and maintained the community park. They assured us that the association was optional and had no enforcement powers. We didn't think much of it at the time. 3 weeks after we moved in, I was in the garage organizing tools when a loud knock echoed from the front door. Opening it, I found myself face to face with Karen Mendez, a woman in her late 50s with a clipboard and the unmistakable aura of self-importance. "Hello, I'm Karen Mendez, president of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association," she announced. "I noticed you haven't paid your membership dues. You owe $900 for the past quarter, plus a $150 late fee." Surprised, I replied, "I'm sorry, but we were told this was a voluntary association." Karen's expression tightened. "That information is outdated. This has been a formal homeowner association for years. If you don't pay, we will pursue further action." She handed me an invoice and stormed off before I could respond. Alarmed, I dug out our closing documents, which explicitly stated that Maple Ridge had no active homeowner association. I called our real estate agent, Sam, who confirmed this and provided county records showing that the original homeowner association had been legally dissolved in 2001 due to financial mismanagement. What remained was a voluntary association with no authority to enforce rules or collect dues. The next morning, I discovered two massive dumpsters blocking our driveway. Taped to the door was a notice. "Per homeowner association regulations, these dumpsters will remain until all outstanding fees are paid." Karen had signed it. Furious, I called the police non-emergency line. Officer Daniels arrived, took photos, and filed a report. However, he explained that this was a civil issue and the police couldn't intervene directly. I called the dumpster company, but they refused to move the bins without Karen's authorization. Realizing I needed legal help, I contacted Mia Patel, an attorney specializing in property disputes. During our consultation, Mia said, "This happens more often than you'd think. Some groups pretend to be homeowner association to extort money from homeowners. Don't worry, we'll handle this." We gathered evidence, photographs of the dumpsters, documentation proving no homeowner association existed, and a police report. Security footage revealed Karen and two men placing the dumpsters in our driveway at 4 a.m. It also emerged that Karen had been running this racket for years, targeting newcomers who were unaware of the homeowner association's dissolution. Mia filed for an emergency injunction to remove the dumpsters and prepared a lawsuit against Karen for harassment, fraud, and trespassing. The hearing was set for the following week. Meanwhile, Karen escalated her antics. Flyers appeared around the neighborhood claiming we were delinquent homeowners, jeopardizing community standards. Several neighbors came by to voice their support after realizing they'd been scammed too. The day before the hearing, Karen showed up at our door with a man claiming to be the homeowner association's attorney, Greg Summers. I immediately called Mia and put her on speakerphone. "Mr. Summers," Mia said, "I've checked the Bar Association's records and there's no attorney by that name licensed in this state. Impersonating a lawyer is a felony. Would you like to revise your statement?" Greg stammered and Karen dragged him away, but not before I documented everything. At the hearing, Judge Torres listened as Mia presented our case. She showed the court irrefutable proof, the dissolved homeowner association status, Karen's fraudulent actions, and testimonies from 3 other families who had fallen victim to her schemes. Karen's defense crumbled when Mia revealed that the homeowner association fees were deposited directly into Karen's personal account. The judge ruled in our favor, granting the injunction and ordering Karen to remove the dumpsters immediately. Moreover, Judge Torres referred Karen for criminal investigation, citing evidence of fraud and harassment. Karen's smug demeanor vanished as she left the courtroom. But this was just the beginning. The neighborhood began uniting against Karen, determined to dismantle her fake homeowner association once and for all. The days following the court hearing were tense but transformative for the neighborhood. Word of the ruling against Karen spread quickly, and more homeowners began to speak out about their experiences. It turned out Karen had been running this scheme for over a decade, collecting thousands of dollars in fees while bullying anyone who dared question her authority. The community was ready for change, and Emily and I found ourselves at the center of the movement to reclaim Maple Ridge. One evening, we hosted a gathering in our backyard to discuss how to officially dissolve Karen's so-called homeowner association and replace it with a transparent, voluntary neighborhood group. Nearly 24 neighbors showed up, some with their own horror stories. A retired couple, Bob and Linda, shared how Karen had fined them $500 for painting their front door without approval, even though no such rule existed. A single mom named Melissa recounted how Karen threatened to report her to child services for having an above-ground pool. "We've been living in fear of her for too long, Miss Shine," Melissa said. "It's time we take back control." Together, we devised a plan. Mia, our lawyer, helped us draft a petition to formally disband any remnants of the old homeowner association and prevent Karen from using the name or pretending to represent the neighborhood. We also contacted the county clerk's office to ensure the dissolved status of the homeowner association was officially updated and publicized. Meanwhile, Emily created a neighborhood Facebook group to facilitate communication and transparency. Karen, however, was not going down without a fight. Flyers began appearing in mailboxes, accusing Emily and me of destroying the community and endangering property values. One morning, I found my car's tires slashed, and though I had no proof Karen was responsible, the timing was suspicious. It only strengthened our resolve. The pivotal moment came during a community meeting at the local library. Karen arrived with her dwindling group of supporters, clearly hoping to intimidate the rest of us. But the turnout was overwhelmingly against her. Dozens of neighbors stood up to share their grievances and support the petition. Bob, the retired homeowner, delivered a powerful speech. "We moved here for peace and community, not to be bullied by someone pretending to have authority. This ends now." His words were met with applause. Karen tried to defend herself, claiming that her actions were always in the neighborhood's best interest. "If I hadn't stepped in, this community would have fallen apart. You all needed leadership," she argued. Mia stood up, holding a thick stack of documents. "Leadership doesn't mean extortion, fraud, and harassment. These records show you've collected over $100,000 in unauthorized fees, all funneled into your personal accounts. This is not leadership, it's theft." Karen's face turned crimson as murmurs filled the room. The meeting ended with an overwhelming majority vote to disband the homeowner association and establish a genuine, voluntary association. Karen stormed out, but not before shouting, "You'll regret this!" The following weeks were a whirlwind. With Mia's help, we finalized the legal dissolution of Karen's bogus homeowner association. Neighbors began organizing real community events, a block party, a cleanup day for the park, and even a fundraiser for new playground equipment. Emily and I became co-chairs of the new Maple Ridge Neighborhood Alliance, a group founded on trust and collaboration rather than fear and control. Meanwhile, the criminal investigation into Karen's activities gained momentum. Local news stations picked up the story, and reporters interviewed several of us about our experiences. Karen's face was plastered across TV screens, and the pressure on her mounted. One night, Emily and I received a call from a neighbor who had overheard Karen planning to leave town. Sure enough, within a week, Karen's house was listed for sale. But before she could escape, the district attorney's office issued a warrant for her arrest on charges of fraud, extortion, and harassment. She was taken into custody, and her co-conspirators were also investigated. Justice, it seemed, was finally being served. As the legal battles unfolded, the neighborhood began to heal. People who had once been isolated by fear started forming real connections. Emily and I felt proud to have played a role in transforming Maple Ridge into the community we'd always hoped it could be. But even as Karen faded from our lives, a question lingered. How had she managed to get away with her schemes for so long? The answer lay in the complacency of the past, and it was a lesson none of us would forget. Moving forward, we vowed to stay vigilant, ensuring that no one could ever exploit our community again. As Karen's legal troubles deepened, the neighborhood rallied together like never before. Her house sat vacant, a stark reminder of the turmoil she had caused. The Maple Ridge Neighborhood Alliance flourished, with new committees forming to tackle various community needs. Emily and I found ourselves busier than ever, but it was a fulfilling kind of busy. Despite the progress, there was an undercurrent of tension. Karen's remaining supporters, a small but vocal minority, continued to stir up trouble. They spread rumors that the new Neighborhood Alliance was mishandling funds or playing favorites. We knew they were trying to sow doubt, but it only strengthened our determination to remain transparent and inclusive. One evening, as Emily and I were reviewing plans for the upcoming fall festival, we received an unexpected knock on the door. It was Mia, our attorney, holding a folder stuffed with documents. "I have some new information," she said, stepping inside. "Karen's case just took a significant turn. According to Mia, the district attorney's investigation had uncovered a massive paper trail. Not only had Karen embezzled funds from her fake homeowner association, but she'd also been involved in forging legal documents to intimidate homeowners. She had created fake liens against properties, claiming they were penalties for violating non-existent homeowner association rules. This isn't just fraud," Mia explained. "It's racketeering. The DA is preparing additional charges, and they're reaching out to more victims." The revelation sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Some residents discovered liens filed against their homes, which explained why their refinance applications or sales had been delayed in the past. Emily and I helped organize a meeting for these victims to connect with the DA's office and ensure their stories were heard. Amid this chaos, we also began to see the community's resilience. Melissa, the single mom who had once feared Karen's threats, volunteered to lead a new committee focused on neighborhood safety. Bob and Linda started a weekly gardening group to beautify the park. Even neighbors who had never participated before were stepping up, eager to contribute to the revitalized community. But Karen's supporters weren't finished. Late one night, someone vandalized the community garden with spray paint, scrawling phrases like, "Bring back Karen," and "fake leaders." Emily and I filed a police report, and the neighbors came together the next morning to clean up the damage. The incident only reinforced the Alliance's mission to create a positive, inclusive neighborhood. As the criminal case against Karen moved forward, her lawyer attempted to negotiate a plea deal. The terms included full restitution to her victims and public acknowledgement of her wrongdoing. But the DA's office, backed by testimony from dozens of neighbors, refused to go easy on her. "Karen's actions affected too many people for this to be brushed aside," the assistant DA said during a meeting with the Alliance. "We intend to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law." The trial date was set, and anticipation grew as more evidence came to light. Mia kept us informed every step of the way, and we worked closely with the DA's office to ensure the victims' stories were part of the case. By now, the local media was covering the story extensively, and Karen's name had become synonymous with fraud and abuse of power. The trial itself was dramatic. Witness after witness took the stand, describing Karen's tactics: the dumpsters, the forged documents, the intimidation. The prosecution presented bank statements showing how Karen funneled homeowner association fees into her personal accounts to fund vacations, luxury shopping sprees, and renovations on her home. The forged liens were particularly damning, as they showed a calculated effort to exploit and intimidate her neighbors for personal gain. Karen's defense team tried to paint her as a misunderstood leader who only wanted to improve the neighborhood. But the jury saw through the charade. After a week of testimony, it took them less than 3 hours to deliver a guilty verdict on all counts. Karen was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with restitution payments to her victims as part of the judgment. As news of the verdict spread, the neighborhood celebrated. Emily and I hosted a potluck in the park, where laughter and music replaced the fear and tension that had once dominated Maple Ridge. People shared stories, swapped recipes, and made plans for future projects. For the first time in years, the neighborhood truly felt like a community. Though the battle with Karen was over, the experience left a lasting impact. It reminded us all of the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. The Maple Ridge Neighborhood Alliance became a symbol of resilience, proof that even the most toxic situations can lead to something better when people come together. But as the evening wound down and the stars began to twinkle above the park, Emily leaned over to me and said, "You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Karen tries to pull something wherever she ends up next." I laughed. "If she does, I hope they have a Mia Patel on their side." The months following Karen's conviction marked a new chapter for Maple Ridge. The neighborhood, once fractured by fear and manipulation, had blossomed into a close-knit community defined by trust and collaboration. The Maple Ridge Neighborhood Alliance, a voluntary group rooted in transparency, became a shining example of how neighbors could work together for the common good. Emily and I felt immense pride in what we had accomplished. The fall festival we organized was a massive success, drawing hundreds of attendees and raising funds for new playground equipment and park improvements. It was a moment of pure joy, a stark contrast to the turmoil of Karen's reign. But just when we thought the drama was over, a surprising twist emerged. One evening, while Emily and I were reviewing plans for a spring garden project, Mia called with unexpected news. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Karen is appealing her sentence." Apparently, Karen had hired a new legal team who claimed her trial had been unfair. They argued that media coverage and community bias had influenced the jury, and they demanded a retrial. While the appeal didn't pose an immediate threat, it reignited concerns among neighbors who feared Karen might somehow regain her footing. "She's like a bad penny," Bob joked at a neighborhood meeting, "always turning up when you least expect it." Despite the lingering anxiety, we remained steadfast. The Alliance continued its work, focusing on projects that brought neighbors together. We organized tree planting events, hosted potlucks, and even started a book club. These activities strengthened our bonds and reminded everyone why we fought so hard to reclaim Maple Ridge. Meanwhile, the legal system worked through Karen's appeal. The DA's office assured us that the evidence against her was overwhelming, and Mia kept us informed at every step. Finally, after months of waiting, the appellate court issued its decision. The original verdict would stand. Karen's appeal was denied and her sentence remained unchanged. The news brought a collective sigh of relief to the neighborhood. To celebrate, we hosted another community gathering, this time a spring picnic in the park. The event was filled with laughter, games, and a sense of camaraderie that had once seemed impossible. As the sun set that evening, Emily and I sat on a bench overlooking the park. Children played on the new playground, funded by the Alliance's efforts, while neighbors chatted and shared stories. It was a scene that perfectly encapsulated the transformation of Maple Ridge. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Emily asked, resting her head on my shoulder. I smiled. Not long ago, this place was defined by fear and division. Now it feels like home. Though Karen was gone, her actions had left an indelible mark on our lives. They reminded us of the importance of vigilance and the power of standing up to injustice. But more than that, they taught us the value of community and the strength that comes from working together. As the evening drew to a close, a new family approached us. They had recently moved into the neighborhood and wanted to learn more about the Alliance. Emily and I eagerly shared our experiences, offering advice and encouragement. It felt like passing the torch, ensuring that the spirit of Maple Ridge would continue to thrive. Before the family left, the father turned to us and said, "Thank you for everything you've done here. It's clear this is more than just a neighborhood. It's a community." His words stayed with me long after the picnic ended. They encapsulated the journey we had been on and the lessons we had learned. Maple Ridge was no longer just a collection of houses. It was a place where people cared for one another, stood up for what was right, and built something lasting together. Karen's story had finally come to an end, but ours was just beginning. And as we looked ahead, Emily and I felt nothing but hope and excitement for the future of Maple Ridge. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow.